At midnight, from my balcony, I witnessed someone dumping a body. I was so scared, I collapsed to the floor. But I accidentally knocked over a flower pot. The killer looked up. His pale face turned towards the floors and he started counting. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. When he got to 2, he cracked his neck. And dragging a bloody hammer, he headed straight for my building. I quickly covered my mouth. I was 7 years old, and in absolute terror, I was about to scream. Then a pair of hands clamped over my face from behind. "Rui, don't make a sound." My sister shushed me, then quickly deadbolted the security door. She started calling my brother-in-law, who was a detective, but she couldn't get through. So she anxiously dialed the local emergency line. "Dispatch, I'm at 202, Building 2 of the Guangming Road Textile Factory Apartments. My brother and I just saw someone get murdered downstairs. The killer saw us." The dispatcher told my sister to stay calm. A patrol car would be there within 5 minutes. My sister forced herself to be calm. She dragged the heavy dining table to barricade the door, then grabbed a pair of sewing scissors in one hand and held me tightly behind her. "Rui, don't be afraid. I'm here. Once the police and your brother-in-law get here, we'll be safe." My sister told me not to be afraid, but she was trembling all over. The lock on the door began to rattle and bang violently. My sister tried calling my brother-in-law again, but all she got was that same, hopeless busy signal. Outside, it was as if the killer had lost his last bit of patience. All I heard was a heavy thud, and the security door, frame and all, was smashed inward by the hammer. It all happened in an instant. The man burst in like a wild animal. He shoved the dining table aside and kicked my sister, sending her flying. He grabbed the hammer and started swinging. After my sister fell into a pool of her own blood, motionless. He turned and came for me. But then, my sister, who I thought was unconscious, roared as her eyes shot open. With a burst of incredible strength, she lunged forward and plunged the scissors deep into the man's thigh. "Rui, run!" The killer roared in pain and rage. He started smashing my sister's back with the hammer like a madman. Once, twice, 3 times. My sister kept biting down on his pant leg, refusing to let go, even after she took her last breath. The noise woke up the entire building. Sirens wailed in the distance, getting closer. The killer pulled the scissors out, jumped out the window, and vanished into the night. And he was gone for 10 years. I survived, but the price was a lifelong disability. After we were taken to the hospital, my brother-in-law, who had just finished an arrest, finally arrived. When he saw my sister in the morgue, he collapsed to his knees, unable to even make a sound. Before they wheeled me out of surgery, I asked through my blood-soaked bandages. To my brother-in-law, who was on the verge of breaking down, "Brother-in-law, why didn't you answer my sister's call? If you had answered the phone, would my sister still be alive?" But I didn't know that my one hopeless question would become a poison, trapping my brother-in-law forever in that bloody, rainy night. His hair turned white overnight. Night after night, he would kneel in front of my sister's portrait, slapping his own face. "Why didn't you answer the phone? Why was it on silent?" He didn't stop until I was discharged from the hospital. That's when he made a decision. The first thing he did was resign from his job as a police officer, the job he was so proud of. My brother-in-law bought a beat-up old Wuling van model. With me, disabled, in the passenger seat, he spent all his retirement funds and family fortune. He printed countless wanted posters of the killer for a nationwide manhunt. He drove across 20 provinces, visiting over 300 remote mountainous areas, abandoned factories and mines, and urban villages. He hunted the killer for a full 10 years. I also lived in his passenger seat for 10 years. But that last time, on August 15, 2021, he claimed he had finally cornered the real killer. But he was stabbed more than 10 times in an unfinished building and didn't make it out alive. And at the very moment he took his last breath, I was reborn. Reborn before my sister was murdered. I opened my eyes to find myself standing on the balcony, my hand resting on a flower pot. Down below, the man was looking up, starting to count the floors. 6, 5, 4, 3. My sister's horrific death flashed through my mind, those desperate 5 minutes. This time, I have to make sure my sister survives. I spun around abruptly, clamped a hand over my own mouth, which was about to scream, and then hugged my sister tightly. My sister was stunned. "Xiao Rui, what's wrong?" I shook my head frantically and whispered, "Sis, lock the door. We have to hide, under the bed in the bedroom." My sister was frightened by me. "What? Xiao Rui, what are you talking about?" I didn't have time to explain, I just pulled her and ran towards the bedroom. My sister tried to resist, but I held her hand in a death grip. "Sis, trust me, locking the door won't work. He'll break the door down. We have to hide." My sister looked at the terror in my eyes and hesitated for a second. Finally, she crawled under the bed with me. We held our breath, listening as the footsteps in the hallway grew closer. The heavy steps stopped outside our door. The doorknob turned forcefully, but the unlocked door swung open easily. The killer entered the room. Through the gap under the bed, I saw his blood-stained shoes. He walked around the living room, seeming to search for us. I clamped my hand tightly over my mouth, and my sister didn't move a muscle. Time seemed to stand still. I could hear my own heart pounding furiously. Just then, my elbow accidentally bumped against a toy car under the bed. Beep, 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 beep. The toy car let out a sharp sound. The killer's footsteps instantly rushed towards the bedroom. My sister and I locked eyes in the dark. In that moment, I saw the despair in her gaze. The bed was thrown aside, and a deathly pale face appeared before us. A steel hammer was raised high. This time, we died even faster. I opened my eyes again. I was back on the balcony. My hand on the flower pot. The man below looked up. 6, 5, 4, 3. My second rebirth. I took a deep breath. We can't hide this time. Hiding at home is just waiting to die. I grabbed my sister's hand abruptly. Sis, come with me to the third floor. My sister was startled by me. Xiao Rui, are you insane? There's a killer downstairs. I dragged her desperately towards the door. We're going to find Brother Wong on the third floor. He can protect us. My sister hesitated for a second. But in the end, she followed me and we bolted out of the house. We scrambled up the stairs as fast as we could. Heavy footsteps echoed behind us. The killer had already chased us into the stairwell. I pounded on the third floor's security door with all my might. Brother Wong, help us. Someone's killing people downstairs. He's coming to kill us. A wary voice came from inside the door. Who is it? It's the middle of the night. It's me, Xiao Rui from the second floor. Brother Wong, please open the door. A killer is really chasing us. The door creaked open just a crack. Brother Wang's rugged, fleshy face appeared. He glanced at the empty stairs behind us. He knit his brows and grumbled, "You little brat, stop talking nonsense." What killer? Before he could finish. Sudden, heavy footsteps thudded from the stairwell corner. The killer appeared, dragging a heavy iron hammer. His pale face was splattered with blood, and his eyes were hollow as they stared right at us. Brother Wang's expression changed instantly. He tried to slam the door shut. I gripped the doorframe desperately. Save us. Brother Wang shoved me away. You little brat, don't drag me down with you. With a loud bang, he slammed the door and I heard the lock click from the inside. My sister and I pounded on the door in utter despair. The killer had already reached the landing. My sister shielded me behind her, her hands trembling as she held up the fruit knife we had brought from home. The killer raised his hammer. Right then, the phone at his waist suddenly rang. He stopped mid-motion. He picked up the call. Hello? Is it done? A man's voice came from the other end of the line. There are 2 more witnesses, the killer replied in a raspy, low voice. Make it quick. I've already handled things at the dispatch center. I'll delay the police response, but you only have 10 minutes at most. When I heard those words, my head felt like it was going to explode. There was a mole in the dispatch center. No wonder the police never showed up after my sister called them. Someone was intentionally delaying them. The killer hung up the phone. He raised his hammer once more. My sister rushed forward to fight for our lives. But she was struck down by a single blow. I tried to run, but my legs had gone completely weak. I could only watch helplessly as the hammer swung down. Before my consciousness faded, I burned those words into my memory. There is a mole in the dispatch center. Calling for help was useless. I opened my eyes for the third time. It was that same balcony. That same pot of flowers. The man downstairs began his countdown. 6, 5, 4, 3. This time, I knew exactly what to do. I grabbed my sister and rushed into the living room, heading straight for the circuit breaker. My sister cried out in shock, Xiao Rui, what are you doing? I pulled the main switch down hard. The entire building was instantly plunged into total darkness. Sister, we need to hide in the stairwell. Don't make a sound. I pulled her into the corner of the stairs. Between the second and third floors. The killer's footsteps echoed through the dark. But he couldn't find our position. He could only grope around blindly in the hallway. Minutes and seconds ticked by until, finally, the sound of sirens drifted from the distance. Hearing the noise, the killer let out a curse. He turned and fled through the fire exit. My sister and I collapsed onto the floor, trembling. We had just survived the ordeal when a flashlight beam suddenly hit us. A young patrol officer in uniform walked up the stairs. Are you two okay? My sister said through her tears, Officer. The killer escaped through the fire exit. Quick, go after him. The patrol officer nodded and walked over to us. He suddenly pulled out a gun and aimed it at my sister's head. My sister collapsed in a pool of blood. I stared at the officer in terror. He turned the gun on me and said coldly, You saw something you shouldn't have. Before the shot rang out, I recognized the name on his badge. This patrol officer was from the first unit sent by the dispatch center. He was the mole. I opened my eyes for the 4th time. The man downstairs was counting again. My hands were shaking, not out of fear, but out of rage. My first 3 deaths made me understand one thing completely. All outside help had been cut off. There was a mole in the dispatch center, and the responding officers were his accomplices. Waiting for the police meant waiting to die. I had to do this inside this building. I had to kill that murderer with my own strength. My sister noticed something was wrong with me. Xiao Rui, what's wrong? I turned to look at her. Sis, if I told you I know what's going to happen next, would you believe me? My sister was stunned. What do you mean? I took a deep breath. There's no time to explain, sis. Listen to me, go to the kitchen right now and grab a cleaver. The heavier, the better. And then grab all the cooking oil we have and pour it at the entrance and on the stairs. Be quick. My sister was startled by my tone. Xiao Rui, what in the world is wrong with you? I gripped her hand tightly. Sis, I'm begging you, just trust me this once. Calling the police is useless. There's a mole among the police. They'll kill us to keep us quiet. We can only save ourselves. My sister looked into my eyes. In them, she saw a desperation and madness that a 7-year-old child should never have. Trembling, she nodded. Okay, I believe you. We sprang into action. My sister went to the kitchen and got the heaviest cleaver and 2 bottles of cooking oil. As for me, I moved everything from the living room that could be thrown at someone to the door. The vase, the iron candlestick, and the pair of pliers that Dad had left behind. My sister poured oil on the floor at the entrance. I said, sis, it's not enough. Go pour some on the stairs, too. The more, the better. My sister rushed out with the oil bottle and splashed it all over the stairs. Just then, the killer had already reached the 2nd floor. He saw my sister. Her hand trembled in fear. The oil bottle fell to the ground, spilling oil everywhere. She turned to run, but her foot slipped. She fell right there on the stairs. The killer raised his hammer and walked toward my sister. Every step he took landed in the oil, but he was so strong. It didn't affect him at all. I rushed out the door, clutching that pair of pliers. Sis, get back here. My sister struggled to get up, but the assailant was already in front of her. Just as the hammer came down, I threw the pliers with all my might. It hit the assailant's wrist, knocking the hammer off course. It struck the staircase railing with a piercing metallic clang. My sister seized the chance to roll aside and crawl back to our doorstep. The assailant stared at me, and for the first time, there was emotion in his eyes. It was the fury of a provoked beast. He stepped on the oil slick and charged at us. My sister and I ducked inside and tried to shut the door, but the assailant kicked it open. The moment he rushed in, he stepped on the oil by the door and his foot slipped. I grabbed a vase and smashed it over his head. My sister also raised a kitchen knife and slashed at his arm, but it was no use. He was too strong. The assailant grabbed my sister's wrist. With a powerful twist, the kitchen knife fell to the floor. Then he snatched up the hammer and brought it down on my sister's chest. She collapsed. I lunged forward to save her, but the assailant kicked me away. I hit the wall, a sharp pain shooting through my ribs. My vision started to go dark. The assailant walked over to me. He raised the hammer. I used the last of my strength to ask him, "Who are you? Why are you killing us?" The assailant didn't answer. The hammer fell. Before I lost consciousness, I had only one thought in my mind. Just the 2 of us, my sister and I, could never beat him. I needed help. I needed someone in this building with real fighting ability. Brother Wong, the thug on the 3rd floor, wouldn't work. He would only protect himself. But there was someone else living on the 5th floor. A retired veteran. I heard he fought in the war in Vietnam. I opened my eyes for the 5th time. The flower pots on the balcony. The sound of counting. This time, I had to find that old soldier. I grabbed my sister, rushed out the door, and ran straight for the 5th floor. My sister, gasping for breath, asked, "Xiao Rui, where are we going?" "To find someone who can save us." I stood at the veteran's door on the 5th floor and banged on it desperately. Wary, elderly voice came from inside. "Who is it?" I took a deep breath and called out a name. A name I had seen in the case files my brother-in-law had been pursuing for 10 years. "Grandpa Zhang, it's Xiao Rui from the 2nd floor. Please, save us. Save Xiao Jun. Grandpa Zhang, are you there?" It suddenly went quiet inside. Xiao Jun was the name of the veteran's grandson who had died young. The door was yanked open. The veteran, Zhang Wojang, stood in the doorway. His cloudy eyes stared at me intently. "How do you know Xiao Jun's name?" I panted heavily. "Grandpa Zhang. Xiao Jun's nickname was Junhua. When he was 5, he loved the braised pork you made. He said he wanted to be a soldier when he grew up." The old soldier's hands began to tremble. Who are you?" I had no time to explain. Heavy footsteps echoed from downstairs. "The killer is coming upstairs. Grandpa Zhang, there's a murderer downstairs. He wants to kill my sister and me to silence us. I know you don't want to get involved. But Xiao Jun is watching you from heaven. He would want his grandpa to save us." The veteran's eyes instantly turned red. He turned and went back inside. When he came out again, he was holding a rusty hunting knife. "You two, hide in my room and lock the door." My sister wanted to say something, but I pulled her back. "Grandpa Zhang, be careful." The veteran didn't answer. He stood at the top of the stairs, gripping his hunting knife. His back was ramrod straight. The killer appeared at the turn of the stairs, dragging a hammer. He froze for a moment when he saw the veteran. The veteran said coldly, "Young man, drop your weapon. I was a soldier for 20 years. I don't want to get any more blood on these old bones." The killer said nothing. He just raised his hammer and brought it down. The veteran dodged. The hunting knife slashed across the killer's arm, and blood spurted out. The killer recoiled in pain, his eyes growing even more vicious. The 2 of them fought fiercely in the narrow hallway. Although the veteran was old, he was rich in combat experience. Every slash was aimed precisely at the killer's vital points. Though the killer was strong, he couldn't use his full strength in the tight space. The veteran dodged the hammer several times. I watched all of this through the crack in the door. Hope ignited in my heart. The veteran is really strong. He can win. Just then, from downstairs came the sound of hurried footsteps and the beam of a flashlight. A voice shouted, "Police. Everybody drop your weapons." It was that mole patrolman. Hearing the word, police, the veteran subconsciously turned his head. In that split second of distraction, the killer's hammer smashed into the veteran's shoulder. The veteran let out a muffled groan and stumbled backward. The mole patrolman came up the stairs with his gun raised. He saw the blood-soaked killer and the veteran holding a knife. He pulled the trigger without hesitation. The bullet hit the veteran in the back. The veteran turned to look at the patrolman in disbelief. I'm a retired soldier. I'm protecting the children. The mole patrolman sneered. Armed assault, refusing to drop your weapon. My use of force was lawful. The veteran collapsed heavily to the ground. The hunting knife clattered to the floor. The killer took the opportunity to rush the door on the 5th floor. He smashed the lock with one blow. My sister screamed, shielding me with her body. The killer walked into the room, raising the hammer high. My sister closed her eyes, waiting for death. The hammer came down, smashing into her head. She fell into a pool of her own blood and never moved again. The killer turned to me. I looked at my sister's body, tears streaming down my face. I heard the mole patrolman talking to the killer from outside the door. Hurry up, this got too messy. We have to leave immediately. The killer nodded and raised the hammer. I stared at him, memorizing the location of the wound on his leg. Memorizing the angle the veteran had used to cut his arm, memorizing his habit of tensing up before every swing. The hammer fell, and my consciousness faded to black again. But this time, I remembered one sentence. The sentence the mole patrolman said. Hurry up, this got too messy. We have to leave immediately. This meant they had a code between them. A way to communicate. I opened my eyes for the 6th time. The balcony, the potted plant. This is the last time. I can feel it. I have enough information now. The killer's weakness, the mole's identity. The veteran's combat skills. But a veteran alone isn't enough. I need more time. I need my brother-in-law to get back here. The last few times my sister called my brother-in-law, she got a busy signal because he was on an arrest mission. His phone was set to silent, regular calls wouldn't go through. But there's one number that will definitely get through, the City Bureau's internal special line. It can patch directly into the emergency channel of the police walkie-talkie. I pulled my sister and rushed into the house. Sis, don't lock the door. Follow me to the 2nd floor fire escape. My sister froze. Why? I grabbed a roll of iron wire from the toolbox. I said as we ran, we need to trap the killer downstairs. To buy some time, my sister and I rushed to the door of the 2nd floor fire escape. I used the iron wire to tightly wrap the doorknob, loop after loop. Tying the door to the fire hydrant next to it, my sister helped me pull the wire tight. Xiao Rui, will this really work? I gritted my teeth and tied the knot with all my strength. Every minute counts. Sis, hurry back to the apartment. Use the landline to call the City Bureau's internal line. Tell them directly you need to be connected to my brother-in-law. To his squad's police walkie-talkie, on the emergency channel. My sister looked at me in shock. How do you know all this? I didn't have time to explain. Heavy footsteps were already coming from downstairs. Go, now. We rushed back home. My sister dialed the number with trembling hands. The phone rang 3 times before it was answered. A serious male voice came from the other end. City Bureau Command Center. State your badge number. My sister panicked. I'm not a police officer. I'm the wife of Detective Li Jiangwo. My name is Lin Yu. Something's happened at our home. There's a murderer trying to kill us. Please, connect me to my husband's walkie-talkie. The person on the other end was silent for a second. Ma'am, do you know this is a police emergency line? Unauthorized calls have legal consequences. My sister burst into tears. I know, but I can't reach my husband's phone, and the killer is about to break down the door. Please, we're at Wangming Road, Textile Factory Residential Compound, Building 2, Apartment 202. Please, save us. Perhaps it was the sheer desperation in my sister's cries that made the person on the other end relent. One moment, I'll connect you. A few seconds later, the walkie-talkie crackled with static, and my brother-in-law's anxious voice came through. You, is that you? What's wrong? Hearing her husband's voice, my sister broke down completely. Jiangwo, a murderer is after us. He wants to kill me and Xiao Rui. Please, come back quickly. My brother-in-law's voice instantly turned sharp. Are your doors locked? Just then, a loud crash came from the fire escape. The killer was smashing the door with a sledgehammer. I grabbed the walkie-talkie and shouted, Brother-in-law, we're at home, but the door won't hold for long. Hurry, Xiao Rui? My brother-in-law's voice was filled with shock. You guys, hold on. I'll be there right away. 10 minutes. 10 minutes at most. The fire escape door made a piercing sound of twisting metal. The wire began to snap. I put down the walkie-talkie. Sis, we need to buy more time. I rushed into the kitchen and poured out all the cooking oil on the doorway and the living room floor, then broke a few glass cups. I scattered the shards on the oil. My sister understood what I meant. And started to help too. We also piled up all the chairs and tables in the house at the door to create a barrier. My sister found the toolbox Dad left behind, which had a wrench and a screwdriver. And a small hatchet. Never mind, the fire escape door was finally smashed open. The killer dragged his sledgehammer into the hallway. He saw our apartment door was ajar. The moment his foot stepped inside, he stepped on the oil and glass shards. The killer's foot slipped, and his huge body lost its balance, falling heavily to the ground. The sledgehammer also flew out of his hand. I grabbed the wrench and smashed it at his head. My sister also raised the small hatchet. But the killer reacted extremely quickly and grabbed my wrist. With a powerful fling, my whole body was thrown against the wall. My sister's hatchet struck the killer's shoulder. But it only tore his clothes and didn't cause a fatal wound. The killer punched my sister in the face. She fell to the ground, blood trickling from the corner of her mouth. The killer got up to retrieve his sledgehammer. Just then, a commotion came from the third floor. The hoodlum, Brother Wong, was awakened by the loud noise. He opened his door, poked his head out, and looked down. What the hell is going on downstairs? It's the middle of the night, are you trying to keep people from sleeping? The killer looked up at him. When Brother Wong saw the blood-soaked killer, his face changed instantly and he tried to shut the door. But it was too late. The killer's attention had been drawn. He dragged his sledgehammer and started walking upstairs. I took the chance to pull my sister up. Sis, let's go to the 5th floor and find Grandpa Zhang. We ran up the stairs after him. Behind us, we heard Brother Wang's screams and the sounds of a fight. I knew Brother Wang wouldn't last long. But at least it would buy us a few more minutes. I knocked on the veteran's door on the 5th floor. Grandpa Zhang, it's me, Xiao Rui. The door opened. The veteran saw our disheveled state. And heard the commotion from downstairs and immediately understood the situation. He turned and took out that hunting knife. You two, come in. Hide in the back room. I shook my head. Grandpa Zhang, this time is different. There's a mole among the police. He'll shoot you from behind. You have to watch your back. The veteran froze for a moment, his eyes filled with confusion as he looked at me. Little one, who on earth are you? I didn't answer, because footsteps were heard from downstairs again. This time, it wasn't just the killer who came. It was also that mole, the patrol officer. 2 sets of footsteps echoed in the stairwell. One heavy, one light. The killer dragged his sledgehammer up from the 3rd floor. Covered in blood, he had already dealt with Brother Wong. And from downstairs, the mole patrol officer slowly walked up, shining a flashlight. A gun in his hand. The veteran stood at the top of the stairs, gripping his hunting knife tightly. I pulled my sister to hide behind him, whispering, Grandpa Zhang, the one downstairs in the police uniform is the most dangerous one. He'll shoot when you're not looking. The veteran didn't turn around. He just nodded. I'll remember that. The killer reached the 5th floor first. He saw the hunting knife in the veteran's hands. And a flash of fear flickered in his eyes. The two of them faced off. No one made the first move. Just then, the rogue patrolman came up too. He was holding a gun and a flashlight, and saw the scene. A professional expression appeared on his face. Nobody move. Old man, drop the weapon. I'm the police. The old soldier said coldly. This man is a murderer. I'm protecting the children. The rogue patrolman took a few steps closer. I know, but brandishing a knife is also illegal. Put it down. Let me handle this. The old soldier hesitated. His instincts as a professional soldier made him want to obey the police officer's command. I saw his grip on the knife loosen a bit and hurriedly shouted. Grandpa Zhang, don't trust him. He's in on it with the killer. The rogue patrolman's expression changed. Kid, don't talk nonsense. I pointed at him. Your name is Lu Wei, badge number 025143. The dispatch center sent you here on purpose to silence us. You have a secret code. The killer just called you. The rogue patrolman's eyes instantly turned cold. Kid, you know too much. He dropped the act. He raised his gun and aimed it directly at the old soldier's back. The old soldier, having heard my words, was already prepared. The moment he pulled the trigger, the soldier threw himself sideways. The bullet grazed the old soldier's shoulder and hit the wall. The old soldier rolled and slashed his hunting knife across the rogue patrolman's wrist. The rogue patrolman screamed in pain, and the gun fell to the floor. The killer took the opportunity to raise a hammer and swing it at the old soldier. The soldier didn't have time to dodge. He blocked it with his hunting knife. The immense force made the web of his hand go numb. The three of them were locked in a chaotic fight. The old soldier was fighting 2 against 1. He was gradually losing the upper hand. The rogue patrolman clutched his bleeding wrist. He pulled a backup gun from his waist and aimed it at the old soldier. I saw the gun that had been dropped on the floor and, without thinking, lunged for it and picked it up. The gun was heavy. I held it with both hands and aimed at the rogue patrolman. Don't move. Everyone froze. The rogue patrolman sneered, you little brat. Do you even know how to shoot? I don't, but my hands are shaking. My index finger is already on the trigger. My sister tried to rush over and grab the gun. I shouted, sis, stay back. Just then, the sound of hurried footsteps and a walkie-talkie came from downstairs. Team 3 has arrived on scene, heading upstairs. It was my brother-in-law. My brother-in-law had brought people. The rogue patrolman's face went pale. He glanced at the killer. "Let's get out of here." The killer turned and tried to escape through the fire escape. The old soldier mustered his last bit of strength, lunged forward, and plunged his hunting knife into the killer's thigh. The killer screamed and smashed the hammer into the old soldier's chest. The old soldier coughed up a mouthful of blood and collapsed on the floor. During the chaos, the rogue patrolman raised his gun and aimed at me. "You little brat, this is all your fault." The gun went off, but the bullet didn't hit me. My sister had thrown herself in front of me. The bullet hit her in the shoulder. My sister fell into my arms. Blood stained her clothes red. My eyes instantly turned red with rage. I raised the gun in my hands, aimed at the rogue patrolman, and pulled the trigger. Bang! The recoil threw me to the ground. The bullet went wide. It only grazed the rogue patrolman's ear, but the shot terrified him. He didn't dare to stay any longer, turning to flee with the killer into the fire escape. My brother-in-law and 3 of his team members charged up to the 5th floor, where they saw blood all over the ground and my sister collapsed. His face turned pale in an instant. My sister Yu said weakly, "Jiangwo, I'm okay. Hurry, go after the killer." They ran into the fire escape. My brother-in-law left 2 team members behind to take care of us. He took the other team member and gave chase. I held my sister in my arms. Looking at the wound on her shoulder, my tears flowed uncontrollably. "I'm so sorry, this is all my fault." My sister stroked my head. "Silly child, I'm okay. You saved us." The old veteran was lying on the ground, his chest caved in. His breathing was shallow. I crawled over and held his hand. "Grandpa Zhang, please don't die. The ambulance will be here any second." The old veteran looked at me, faint smile playing on his lips. "You're a brave kid. If my Xiaojun were still alive, he'd be about your age now." His hand slowly loosened its grip, and his head lolled to the side. He had stopped breathing. I knelt on the ground. Staring at the old veteran's body, my heart filled with guilt and rage. I had saved my sister this time, but the old veteran was still dead. The killer and the mole had escaped. My brother-in-law and his team member chased them into the fire escape. I wriggled free from the team member who stayed behind and followed them. The team member tried to stop me, but I yelled, "I know which way they ran." I've seen the killer's escape route before. This wasn't a lie. In my past life, my brother-in-law spent 10 years hunting this killer, and I read the case files countless times from the passenger seat of his car. In the basement of this building, there's an abandoned air raid shelter that connects directly to the old train station 3 kilometers away. I ran into the fire escape and saw my brother-in-law standing at the landing, hesitating. He was wondering, up or down? I gasped, "Down. There's an air raid shelter in the basement. It leads to the old train station." My brother-in-law glanced at me and, without questioning my words, led his team member charging towards the basement. I followed behind them, still clutching the gun I had picked up earlier. The basement was pitch black. My brother-in-law switched on his flashlight. The beam illuminated the damp walls. Up ahead, we could hear the sound of hurried footsteps. The killer and the mole were escaping. My brother-in-law raised his gun and shouted, "Stop. One more step and I'll shoot." The only answer he got was a gunshot. The bullet hit the wall right next to my brother-in-law. He immediately fired back. The sound of gunfire was deafening in the narrow basement. We chased them into the air raid shelter. It was even darker in here, with only the bouncing beam of the flashlight to see by. Suddenly, a scream rang out from up ahead. One of the team members had stepped on something. He had fallen completely into an abandoned ventilation shaft. My brother-in-law stopped. "Old Zhao." A painful groan echoed up from the shaft. "My leg, it's broken. You guys go on without me. Don't worry about me." Gritting his teeth, my brother-in-law pushed forward. It was down to just him, the other team member, and me. The air raid shelter grew narrower. We had to crouch to keep moving forward. Suddenly, the footsteps ahead of us disappeared. My brother-in-law stopped warily. "Be careful, they might be waiting in ambush." He had barely finished speaking when a figure lunged out of the darkness. It was the killer. He swung a sledgehammer at my brother-in-law, who didn't have time to fire his gun. I could only block with the flashlight. The hammer shattered it. Everything went dark. In the middle of the chaotic fight, I heard my brother-in-law grunt in pain. And the sound of fists and feet hitting each other. I turned on my phone's flashlight. A weak beam of light lit up the scene in front of me. My brother-in-law was pinned to the ground by the killer. The hammer was raised high. Another officer tried to help, but the corrupt cop grabbed him from behind. The two of them started grappling with each other. I raised my gun and aimed at the killer, but my hand was shaking violently. I was afraid I'd hit my brother-in-law. Just then, I remembered the old soldier's battle from my past life. I remembered the spot on the killer's thigh where he'd been stabbed with a hunting knife. That was the killer's weak spot. He had an old injury behind his right knee. I adjusted my aim, targeting the killer's right leg. I pulled the trigger. The bullet hit the killer's knee. The killer screamed in agony, and the hammer went off course. My brother-in-law seized the opportunity, punching the killer in the jaw and flipping over to pin him down. Meanwhile, the corrupt cop pulled out a knife and stabbed the other officer in the stomach. The officer screamed and collapsed. The corrupt cop turned to run. My brother-in-law raised his gun to shoot, but the killer suddenly struggled. He knocked my brother-in-law's arm, and the bullet went wide. The corrupt cop vanished into the darkness. My brother-in-law tried to go after him, but the killer clung desperately to his leg. My brother-in-law started punching the killer's face, one blow after another. "Who the hell are you? Why are you killing people?" The killer spat out a mouthful of blood and said hoarsely, "I'm just getting paid for a job. The real killer is someone else." My brother-in-law was stunned. "Who?" The killer sneered. "This is just the beginning. They won't spare those two kids. Because what those two kids saw wasn't just me killing someone." He didn't get to finish his sentence. A gunshot rang out, and the killer's head exploded. He collapsed in a pool of blood. My brother-in-law whipped his head around. He saw the corrupt cop standing in the darkness, the barrel of his gun still smoking. The corrupt cop said coldly, "He talked too much." My brother-in-law raised his gun, but the corrupt cop was faster. He pulled the trigger. The bullet hit my brother-in-law's shoulder. My brother-in-law fell, his gun clattering to the side. The corrupt cop walked over and aimed at my brother-in-law's head. "Lee Jiangwo, you shouldn't have gotten involved in this." I raised my gun. I aimed at the corrupt cop. "Let him go." The corrupt cop turned his head. He saw me and laughed. "You still got any bullets, kid?" I pulled the trigger. Click. No bullets left. The corrupt cop burst out laughing. Then he aimed his gun at me. Just then, the injured officer suddenly lunged from the ground and grabbed the corrupt cop's leg. The corrupt cop shot the officer in the back, but he wouldn't let go. My brother-in-law took the chance to lunge forward and wrestle the gun away from the corrupt cop. The two of them started grappling. I rushed in to help. I used the empty gun to hit the corrupt cop in the head. Finally, my brother-in-law knocked him out with a punch. I grabbed him as we both slumped to the ground. Brother-in-law clutched the wound on his shoulder, staring at the killer's corpse. Damn it, he died before he could tell us who the mastermind is. I stared into the killer's wide, lifeless eyes. A sudden wave of dread washed over me. The killer said those two kids saw more than just a murder. What else was there? I tried desperately to remember that rainy night. What exactly did I see from that balcony? Besides the killer dumping the body, there was. A flash of memory suddenly hit me, a black car parked downstairs. Someone was sitting inside, someone I feel like I've seen somewhere before. My thoughts were shattered by a sharp spike of dizziness and a suffocating pain in my chest. Everything twisted before my eyes, and I snapped them open. I was back on the balcony, my hand resting on the flower pot. The man downstairs looked up. 6, 5, 4, 3. But this time, things were different. A new image burned in my mind, that black car. And that blurry figure inside. I have to see his face. Because he's the real one pulling the strings. But now isn't the time to think about that. I have to save everyone first. My past experiences have taught me one thing. Just hiding or fighting head-on is a death sentence. I need a perfect plan. I turned to my sister. "Sis, listen to me. You have to do exactly what I say from now on. Don't get a single step wrong." My sister was startled by my intense expression. "Xiao Rui, what's wrong with you?" I took a deep breath. "Sis, we're out of time. Go grab some wire right now and follow me to the second floor fire exit. We're going to wire that door shut. Then we go home and pour out the cooking oil. And the glass shards. As many as we can find." He started to ask why, but I cut her off. "Sis, please, trust me one last time. If you don't, we're all going to die." My sister looked into my eyes. She saw a look of despair and resolve far beyond my years, and she nodded. Okay, we moved fast, wiring the fire exit door so tightly it wouldn't budge. Then we rushed home and dumped all the oil by the entrance and on the stairs. Broken glass covered the floor. Once we were done, I grabbed her hand. "Sis, call the police department's internal line now." Her hands shook as she dialed the number. She repeated exactly what I'd coached her to say. The other end hesitated for a few seconds. Finally, the call went through. My brother-in-law's voice came over the radio. You? Sobbing, my sister cried out, "Jiangwo. It's the textile factory dorms, building 2, room 202. A killer is trying to murder us. Please, come home." His voice filled with panic instantly. "Lock the doors. I'm on my way." I grabbed the radio from her. "Brother-in-law, when you bring the team, watch out for the first patrol officers who arrive. There's a mole among them. Officer 025143, Lu Wei. He's going to help the killer silence us." The other end went silent for a second. "Xiao Rui, how do you know all this?" "I don't have time to explain. Just trust me. Also, the killer is going to head for the underground air raid shelter. Go straight to the old train station and cut him off. Don't chase him inside the shelter. It's an ambush." My brother-in-law took a sharp breath. "I understand. Keep yourself safe. I'll be there in 10 minutes, I promise." I put down the walkie-talkie and grabbed my sister. "Sis, we're going to Grandpa John's on the 5th floor now. But this time, we can't let him fight alone." We rushed up to the 5th floor and knocked on the veteran's door. The veteran opened the door and saw us, but before he could speak, I cut in. The veteran looked me in the eyes, was silent for a few seconds, then finally nodded. "All right, I'll listen to you." We started setting up traps. The veteran found some nylon rope in his house and set a tripwire at the corner of the stairs. I had my sister pour oil all over the stairs from the 5th to the 4th floor, while the veteran hid at the 4th floor landing, clutching his hunting knife. Once that was done, I said, "Sis, you and Grandpa Zhang hide on the 4th floor. I'm going to the 3rd floor to get Brother Wang." My sister got anxious. "No. It's too dangerous." I shook my head. "Sis. Brother Wang might be a coward, but he has weapons at his place. He can help us buy some time. You guys wait here, I'll be right back." I rushed down to the 3rd floor and pounded on Brother Wang's door. "Brother Wang, open up. There's a murderer downstairs. He's coming up." The door opened a crack, and Brother Wang peeked his head out. "What nonsense are you spouting in the middle of the night, you little brat?" I pointed downstairs. "If you don't believe me, look for yourself. He'll be up here any second." Brother Wang leaned out to look down and saw the culprit dragging a sledgehammer up the stairs. The color drained from Brother Wang's face. He tried to shut the door, but I held onto the frame for dear life. "Brother Wang, it's useless to close the door. He knows someone in this building saw him kill someone. He'll go door to door looking for us. You either help us, or you wait to be killed." Brother Wang hesitated. Finally, he gritted his teeth and said, "Damn it. I'll fight him." He turned and grabbed an iron pipe from his room, along with a bottle of pepper spray. I said, "Brother Wang, don't fight him head on. Wait for him to come up, slip on the oil, and fall. Then you hit him with the pepper spray. And then run like hell." Brother Wang nodded. "Damn it. I'm going all out today." The killer's footsteps grew closer and closer. I hid behind Brother Wang, my heart pounding so fast it felt like it would explode. The killer came up to the 3rd floor and saw the iron pipe in Brother Wang's hands. His eyes grew even more menacing. He raised the sledgehammer to strike. Brother Wang backed away in fear. Just then, a loud crash came from the 2nd floor fire escape, distracting the killer. He turned to look down. I took the chance and yelled, "Brother Wang, now." Brother Wang sprayed the pepper spray in the killer's face. The killer let out a pained scream, clutching his eyes. Brother Wang and I took the opportunity to run upstairs. The killer chased after us and stepped on the oil slick. His feet slipped from under him, and his whole body tumbled down the stairs. We ran back to the 4th floor. The veteran was ready. The killer got up and continued the chase, only to hit the tripwire and fall again. The veteran rushed out, plunging the hunting knife into the killer's thigh. The killer roared in pain and forced the veteran back with his hammer. Just then, the sound of police sirens came from downstairs, but I knew the first one to come up would be the mole. The sirens were getting closer as the beam of a flashlight shone up from downstairs. The mole, Officer Liu Wei, walked up the stairs step by step, shining his flashlight. He held a gun in his hand. "Listen up, you people upstairs. I'm a police officer. Everyone, drop your weapons." Hearing the policeman's voice, the old veteran instinctively went to lower his hunting knife. I grabbed his hand tightly and whispered, "Grandpa Zhang, don't trust him. He's the mole. The moment he gets up here, he'll shoot you." The old veteran hesitated, but then tightened his grip on the hunting knife. When the criminal saw the mole officer coming up, a flicker of relief crossed his eyes. Clutching his bleeding thigh, he retreated further upstairs as the mole officer raised his gun. The beam landed on the old veteran. "Old man, this is your last warning. Drop the knife." The old veteran didn't move. He said coldly, "This man is a murderer. I'm protecting a child." The mole officer sneered, "That doesn't give you the right to take matters into your own hands. You're obstructing justice and assaulting an officer. I have the right to shoot you." He raised his gun and aimed it at the old veteran. I knew he was about to shoot, but this time, I was prepared. I hid in the dark corner of the stairwell and took a deep breath. Then I shouted loudly, "Hurry up. This has gotten too big. We have to pull out now." This was the code phrase I'd heard the mole and the criminal use in my past life. The mole officer's body instantly stiffened. He whipped his head around, looking in the direction where I was hiding. "What did you say?" I shouted again. "Have you taken care of all the witnesses?" The people upstairs are getting impatient. The criminal was stunned too. He looked at the mole officer, his eyes full of confusion. The color drained from the mole officer's face. He realized he'd been exposed. The old veteran also caught on. There was really something wrong with this cop. In the instant the mole officer hesitated, the sound of urgent footsteps and a walkie-talkie came from downstairs. "Team 3 has arrived. We're heading upstairs now." It was my brother-in-law. The mole officer's face changed drastically. He knew if he didn't act now, it would be too late. He aimed his gun at the old veteran. As he was about to pull the trigger, the old veteran, already prepared, dove to the side. The bullet hit the wall. Brother Wang seized the chance to smash an iron rod against the mole officer's back. The mole officer stumbled forward a few steps, then turned and shot Brother Wang in the leg. Brother Wang screamed and collapsed. The criminal used the chaos to raise a hammer and swing at the old veteran. The veteran blocked it with his hunting knife. The two started grappling again. My brother-in-law rushed upstairs with 3 team members. Seeing the chaotic scene, he immediately raised his gun. Nobody moved. When the mole officer saw my brother-in-law, his face instantly switched to a professional expression. "Captain Lee, you're just in time. This old man is attacking people with a knife." I was in the process of stopping him. My brother-in-law looked at the blood-covered criminal, then back at the mole officer. Lu Wei, why is your gun pointed at the old man? The mole officer froze. He refused to drop his weapon. I was warning him. I stepped out from the darkness. Brother-in-law, don't trust him. He's the mole. He's working with the killer. They have a secret code. That phrase I just yelled. That's their street signal. My brother-in-law looked at me. Xiao Rui, are you sure? I nodded. Brother-in-law, check his call history. He definitely called the killer. The mole's expression completely changed. He suddenly aimed his gun at me. You little brat, you ruined everything. My brother-in-law reacted instantly, leveling his gun at the traitor. Lu Wei, put the gun down. The mole let out a cold sneer. Li Jiangguo, do you really think it's over just because you caught me? This goes way deeper than you think. Someone higher up wants to wipe us all out. You're all dead meat. He pulled the trigger. I saw the bullet flying straight at me. Suddenly, my sister rushed down from the 4th floor and threw herself over me. The bullet slammed into her back. My brother-in-law let out a furious roar. He fired, hitting the mole right in the arm. The traitor's gun clattered to the floor. Clinging to his arm, he tried to run, but 2 officers tackled him to the ground. Seeing the mole captured, the killer knew his time was up. He tried to bolt through the fire exit, but the old veteran lunged at him with the last of his strength. The hunting knife sank into the killer's thigh. He collapsed, screaming in agony. My brother-in-law rushed over and kicked the hammer out of the killer's reach. He pressed his gun against the man's head. Don't you move. I pulled my sister into my arms. Blood was pouring from her back. Sis, please, don't die. The ambulance is almost here. My sister gave a weak smile. Xiao Rui, I'm okay, it just hurts a little. My brother-in-law ran to our side. When he saw her wound, his eyes turned red with tears instantly. Yue, stay with me. I'm calling the ambulance right now. He grabbed his radio to call for backup, then ripped off his jacket to press against her wound. Staring at my sister's pale face, I couldn't stop the tears from streaming down. This time, I saved my sister. I saved the veteran and Brother Wang too. The killer and the mole were caught, but I knew this wasn't the end. The man sitting in that black sedan, he's the real mastermind behind all of this. My brother-in-law pinned the killer down, his voice cold. Tell me, who ordered you to kill? The killer kept his head down in silence. My brother-in-law landed a heavy punch on his face. The killer looked up, blood trickling from the corner of his mouth. He rasped out, you really think I'm going to tell you? If I open my mouth, my entire family is as good as dead. My brother-in-law's gaze turned icy. Then you can just wait for your death sentence. The killer suddenly burst out laughing. Death sentence? You think I'm even making it out of this building alive? The moment he said that, a gunshot echoed from downstairs. Everyone froze in shock. The sound of the blast rang through the stairwell. Everyone was stunned. My brother-in-law immediately went on high alert. He aimed his gun toward the stairs. Who's down there? A strange voice called out, relax. I'm with the City Bureau's inspection team. I heard there was a major situation here, so I came to provide backup. A middle-aged man in plain clothes walked up the stairs, holding his badge in one hand and a gun in the other. He looked to be in his early 40s, with a square jaw and incredibly sharp eyes. My brother-in-law looked at his ID and frowned. An inspection team? How come I wasn't notified? The middle-aged man smiled. It was an emergency. There was no time to send a notification. My name is Zhang Ming. I just saw someone trying to escape downstairs. Fired a warning shot. He took a few steps closer. His gaze swept over the culprit and the mole patrolman. Looks like you caught them. Not bad. As I watched this man who had appeared out of nowhere, a strong sense of unease washed over me. His voice. I felt like I'd heard it somewhere before. My brother-in-law said, Captain Zhang, these 2 are suspected of premeditated murder and harboring a criminal. I'm preparing to take them back to the station for interrogation. Zhang Ming nodded. As you should. But before that, I need to ask them a few questions first. He walked over to the culprit. He crouched down. What's your name? The culprit looked up. When he saw Zhang Ming's face, a flicker of fear flashed in his eyes. He opened his mouth, as if he wanted to say something. Suddenly, Zhang Ming pulled out his gun, aimed it at the culprit's head, and bang. Culprit's head exploded, and he collapsed in a pool of blood. Everyone was stunned. My brother-in-law raised his gun, aiming it at Zhang Ming. What are you doing? Zhang Ming said, his face expressionless. He was trying to attack an officer and grab my gun. I acted in self-defense. My brother-in-law roared, bullshit. He was cuffed. How could he grab your gun? Zhang Ming turned his gun and aimed it at my brother-in-law. Li Jiangguo, you'd better stay out of this. The other 2 officers also raised their guns, aiming them at Zhang Ming. The atmosphere was instantly thick with tension. I finally remembered that voice. It was the voice on the other end of the line when the culprit took that call the other night. I yelled, brother-in-law, look out. He's the one behind all this. Zhang Ming looked at me, his eyes turning ice cold. You little brat, you know too much. He turned and aimed his gun at me. My brother-in-law tried to fire, but Zhang Ming was faster. He shot my brother-in-law in the leg, and he collapsed. The other 2 officers opened fire. Zhang Ming dove and rolled to avoid the bullets. He returned fire at the same time, hitting one of the officers, who fell to the ground. In the chaos, the old veteran lunged at Zhang Ming, thrusting a hunting knife toward his back. Zhang Ming's reflexes were incredibly fast. He sidestepped the attack. He shot the veteran in the shoulder, and the old man went down. Zhang Ming walked over to him, ready to finish him off. I picked up a gun that had fallen on the floor. I aimed it at Zhang Ming. Let go of Grandpa Zhang. Zhang Ming stopped, turned to look at me, and smiled. Kid, you're really brave. But you're not going to pull the trigger. My hand was trembling, my index finger resting on the trigger. Zhang Ming walked towards me, one step at a time. Do you know what you saw that night? On the balcony? You didn't just see a murder. You also saw my car, and you saw my face. Try to recall that rainy night, the black car. The car window rolled down to reveal a face. It was him, this man right in front of me. Zhang Ming continued, the man who was killed was a compromised witness. He had some evidence he shouldn't have had. My plan was originally perfect. But I never expected you to see it. My brother-in-law clutched the wound on his leg. He gritted his teeth and said, "Who the hell are you?" Zhang Ming laughed. Who I am isn't important. What's important is the story of what happened here tonight. A criminal resisted arrest, assaulted an officer, and stole their gun, causing multiple casualties. And I will be the hero who took down the criminal. He raised his gun and aimed it at me. Little one, if you have to blame someone, blame yourself for seeing what you shouldn't have. Close your eyes. The trigger was pulled. Bang. The bullet went wide. It only grazed Zhang Ming's shoulder. Zhang Ming's expression changed, and he pulled his trigger, too. At that exact moment, a figure lunged forward, shielding me. It was my sister. She protected me with her own body. The bullet hit her in the chest. My sister collapsed into my arms, blood trickling from the corner of her mouth. Xiao Rui, run. I held my sister, tears blurring my vision. Zhang Ming walked over, preparing to fire again, when suddenly, the sound of many footsteps and walkie-talkies came from downstairs. Reinforcements from the city bureau had arrived. Nobody moved. Zhang Ming's face fell. He glanced downstairs, then back at us. Finally, he turned and fled down the emergency stairwell. My brother-in-law struggled to his feet. He shouted to the remaining officers, after him. Don't let him get away. The officers gave chase. My brother-in-law crawled over to my sister. You, don't die. The ambulance will be here any second. My sister looked at my brother-in-law, smiling weakly. Jiangguo, take care of Xiao Rui. Her hands slowly went limp. Her head tilted to one side. I held my sister's body and let out a hoarse cry. No, sister, don't die, please don't die, but my sister would never answer me again. I lifted my head and stared in the direction of the emergency stairwell. My eyes were filled with hatred. Zhang Ming, I swear I'm going to kill you. I stood up and picked up the gun from the floor. I ran towards the emergency stairwell. My brother-in-law yelled, Xiao Rui. Come back, it's dangerous. But I didn't stop. I had to kill that man myself. To avenge my sister, I burst into the emergency stairwell. I could hear gunshots and the sounds of a chase up ahead. I followed the sounds down to the basement. In the darkness, Zhang Ming's figure vanished into the depths of an air raid shelter. I tightened my grip on the gun and walked into the darkness. This time, either he dies or I do. The air raid shelter was pitch black. I turned on my phone's flashlight. Its weak light illuminated a few meters ahead. I heard footsteps up ahead, along with an officer's shout. Stop. If you run again, I'll shoot. A gunshot rang out. Then, a scream. I quickened my pace. Turning the corner, I saw an officer lying on the ground. He'd been shot in the chest and wasn't breathing. I gripped the gun in my hand and kept walking forward. The air raid shelter grew narrower, and the air was damp and cold. The walls were covered in moss. Suddenly, Zhang Ming's voice came from up ahead. Kid, you actually dared to follow me down here. I suggest you go back. This is no place for you. I didn't answer. I walked toward the sound of his voice as Zhang Ming continued to speak. You can't blame me for your sister's death. If you want to blame someone, blame her for being so nosy. If you two hadn't seen anything, you'd still be alive and well today. I gritted my teeth. You killed my sister. I'm going to make you pay with your life. Zhang Ming laughed. You think you can? 7-year-old kid. As soon as the words left his mouth, a muzzle flashed in the darkness. A bullet grazed my ear. I dove to the ground in terror, and my phone fell from my hand. The light went out, plunging everything into darkness. All I could hear was my own ragged breathing and the pounding of my heart. Zhang Ming's footsteps echoed in the darkness, getting closer and closer. Come on out, kid. There's no use hiding. I groped my way toward a side passage, and my hand touched something ice cold. It was the flashlight that squad member had dropped earlier. I picked it up, but I didn't turn it on. I kept crawling forward. Zhang Ming's footsteps stopped where I had just been. He was searching for me. I held my breath, completely still. It felt like time had stopped. I could hear Zhang Ming's breathing. He was less than 5 meters away from me. Suddenly, my brother-in-law's voice called out from the distance. Xiao Rui, where are you? Zhang Ming immediately turned. He fired in the direction of the voice. I took the opportunity to turn on the flashlight. The beam landed on Zhang Ming's back. He spun around violently. He raised his gun, aiming at me. I squeezed the trigger. 2 shots rang out almost simultaneously. I felt a sharp pain in my shoulder. His bullet grazed my skin, but mine hit Zhang Ming in the leg. He let out a grunt and dropped to one knee. I struggled to my feet and raised the gun, aiming it at him. Zhang Ming raised his gun too. The two of us were at a standstill. Are you really going to kill me, kid? Zhang Ming said, panting. Do you know what it feels like to kill someone? It will haunt you for the rest of your life. My hand was trembling, but my gaze was firm. You killed my sister. I have to avenge her. Zhang Ming laughed. Revenge? You think killing me is the end of it? There are others I work for. They won't let you go. I don't care. You're going to die today. Just as I was about to squeeze the trigger, my brother-in-law's voice came from behind. Xiao Rui, don't shoot. I turned to see my brother-in-law limping over. 2 squad members followed behind him. My brother-in-law walked up to me. He put his hand on mine, pushing the gun down. Xiao Rui, give me the gun. I shook my head. Brother-in-law, he killed my sister. I'm going to kill him with my own hands. My brother-in-law crouched down, looked into my eyes. Xiao Rui, I know you hate him. I hate him too, but if you kill him now, you'll become just like him. My tears started to fall. But my sister is dead. She died protecting me. My brother-in-law's eyes turned red too. I know all of it. But Yu wouldn't want you to become a murderer. She'd want you to live a good life. I looked at my brother-in-law, and my hand slowly loosened its grip. Gun fell to the floor. I dropped to my knees and burst into tears. My brother-in-law hugged me and started crying too. 2 team members stepped forward, pointing their guns at Zhang Ming. Zhang Ming, you're under arrest. Do you have any proof? My brother-in-law wiped his tears, stood up, and walked over to Zhang Ming. Proof? You just shot and killed one of my team members, and you tried to kill Xiao Rui. That's all the proof we need. Besides, I've already notified the municipal bureau. Your identity will be confirmed very soon. The color drained from Zhang Ming's face. He suddenly raised his gun and pointed it at his own head. My brother-in-law yelled, don't move. But it was too late. Zhang Ming pulled the trigger. Click, there were no bullets. Zhang Ming froze. My brother-in-law kicked the gun out of his hand and punched him in the face. Zhang Ming fell to the ground, restrained by the team members. My brother-in-law picked up Zhang Ming's gun, checked it, and said coldly, looks like you're out of luck. You're out of bullets. Zhang Ming slumped to the ground, a look of despair on his face for the first time. My brother-in-law said to his team, take him back and keep a close watch on him. The team members escorted Zhang Ming out. I watched him leave, but the hatred in my heart didn't disappear. But my brother-in-law was right. If I killed him, I'd be just like him. My brother-in-law helped me up to leave. Xiao Rui, let's go home. I shook my head. Brother-in-law, my sister is still upstairs. I need to be with her. Tears streamed down my brother-in-law's face again. Okay, we'll be with her together. We walked out of the air raid shelter. The sky was already getting light. Ambulances and police cars filled the area downstairs. The neighbors had all been woken up and were watching from their windows. My brother-in-law and I returned to the 5th floor. My sister's body had been covered with a white cloth. I lifted the cloth and looked at my sister's pale face. The tears started flowing again. Sister, I'm so sorry. This is all my fault. If only I had found out who was behind all this. You wouldn't have died. By dawn, the leaders from the municipal bureau had arrived at the scene. An old police officer with graying hair came upstairs. He saw the bloodstains in the body. His expression was grim. He walked over to my brother-in-law. Jiangwo, my condolences. My brother-in-law looked up, his eyes vacant. Chief Wang, who exactly is Zhang Ming? Chief Wang sighed. He's the deputy head of the municipal bureau's inspection team. But we've checked his call logs and bank accounts. It was discovered that he'd taken a lot of dirty money over the years, doing favors for people, including silencing people by killing them. My brother-in-law said, gritting his teeth. Who was the person that was killed? Director Wang said it was an accountant. He had the account books for a smuggling ring. Zhang Ming took the money and arranged for someone to silence him. He never expected that your family's child would see it. I looked up. So he wants to kill our whole family. Director Wang looked at me, his eyes full of guilt. I'm sorry, kid, we failed to protect you. I shook my head. It's not your fault. It's my fault. If I hadn't seen anything that night, my sister wouldn't have died. Director Wang crouched down and patted my shoulder. You're very brave, kid. You saved a lot of people. Your sister would be proud of you. But I don't want that kind of pride. I just want my sister to be alive. The medical examiner arrived to take my sister's body away. I watched the stretcher disappear at the top of the stairs, and suddenly, everything went black. I collapsed. And then I was back on that balcony again. My hand was resting on the flower pot. The man downstairs looked up. 6, 5, 4, 3. But this time, I didn't move. I just stood there, watching the killer downstairs count down. This time, I also got a clear look at Zhang Ming in the black sedan. He was looking up at our balcony, his eyes ice cold. I took a deep breath and said to my sister, Sis, do you believe in rebirth? My sister froze. What? I said, if a person could be constantly reborn. Go back to the past and change the future. Would you believe it? My sister crouched down. She touched my forehead. Xiao Rui, do you have a fever? I shook my head. Sis, I don't have a fever. I just want to tell you, no matter what happens next, you have to believe me. And listen to what I say, okay? My sister looked at my serious expression and hesitated for a few seconds. Finally, she nodded. Okay, sis believes you. I took my sister's hand. Sis, we're not calling the police this time. And we're not hiding. We're going on the offensive. My sister was confused. What do you mean? I said, the killer downstairs was sent by Zhang Ming. Zhang Ming is the deputy head of the Municipal Bureau's inspection team. He wants to kill us to silence us, but he doesn't know that I already know who he is. My sister was shocked. Xiao Rui, how do you know all this? I didn't answer, I just said, sis, call brother-in-law right now. Tell him Zhang Ming wants to kill us. Tell him to go arrest Zhang directly. Don't come to the house. My sister picked up the phone, trembling. She dialed brother-in-law's number. Jiangguo, it's me. Brother-in-law's voice came through. Yu, what's wrong? It's so late. My sister looked at me. I nodded for her to keep talking. My sister took a deep breath. Jiangguo, the deputy head of the Municipal Bureau's inspection team, Zhang Ming, wants to kill us to silence us. He's downstairs at the textile factory's family courtyard on Guangming Road in a black sedan. Go arrest him right now. Remember, you must bring plenty of backup. He's extremely dangerous. My brother-in-law stayed silent for a few seconds. What are you talking about? Zhang Ming? How do you even know that? I grabbed the phone. Brother-in-law, it's me, Xiao Rui. You have to believe me. Zhang Ming is right downstairs. He sent a hitman to kill me. You need to bring your team here right now. But don't come upstairs. Just surround that black sedan directly. Arrest Zhang Ming. My brother-in-law hesitated. Xiao Rui, this is a very serious accusation. If you've got this wrong, I cut him off. Brother-in-law, just trust me this one time. If I'm wrong, I'll take full responsibility for everything. But if I'm right, you'll be saving our entire family. And you'll catch a major corrupt official. He was silent for a few seconds. Finally, he said, fine. I believe you. Stay inside and don't come out. I'm on my way. Few minutes later, the sound of sirens filled the air. 3 police cars surrounded the sedan, and my brother-in-law rushed out with his team. They aimed their guns at the sedan and shouted for the person inside to get out. Hands behind your head. The car door slowly opened. Zhang Ming stepped out, his face twisted with shock and rage. Standing by the car, Zhang Ming forced a professional-looking smile. Li Jiangguo, what's the meaning of this? Surrounding me with your men in the middle of the night? My brother-in-law kept his gun raised, his face like stone. Team leader Zhang, you've been accused of hiring a hitman. Please cooperate with our investigation. Zhang Ming's expression shifted. That's ridiculous. Who made such an accusation? Where's your evidence? My brother-in-law replied, we'll find the evidence. Right now, you're coming with us to the station. Zhang Ming gave a cold sneer. Li Jiangguo, do you have any idea what you're doing? I am the deputy head of the inspection team. You're just a lowly detective captain. What right do you have to arrest me? My brother-in-law didn't flinch. Anyone who breaks the law will be investigated. Even you. Zhang Ming glanced at the police surrounding him, then looked up at us on the balcony. His eyes turned cold and murderous. Suddenly, he reached for his gun. He tried to fight back, but my brother-in-law was one step ahead of him. A single shot knocked the gun right out of his hand, and the other officers swarmed him. They pinned Zhang Ming to the ground and slapped the handcuffs on him. Zhang Ming struggled, screaming, Li Jiangguo, you're going to regret this. Do you have any idea who's backing me? Touching me is a death sentence. My brother-in-law said coldly, then let them come and find me. Take him away. The officers hauled Zhang Ming into the back of a police car. Just then, heavy footsteps echoed from the stairwell. The killer burst out, dragging his sledgehammer, but froze when he saw Zhang Ming in custody. My brother-in-law instantly aimed his weapon. Drop it. Drop the weapon. Hands behind your head. The killer looked over at Zhang Ming in the back of the car. He looked at the circle of police and realized it was all over. He let the sledgehammer fall and dropped to his knees on the pavement. With his hands behind his head, the officers rushed in to secure him. After they took him away, my sister and I stood together on the balcony. Looking at everything that had unfolded, my sister said in utter disbelief, Xiao Rui. How did you know all of this? I didn't give her an answer. I just held her as tight as I could. Sis, this time, you're not going to die. My sister gently stroked my hair and smiled. You silly child, I wasn't going to die anyway. But I knew the truth. In another timeline, she had already died 7 times. My brother-in-law led his team back upstairs. Seeing that we were both safe and sound, he let out a long sigh of relief. He walked over and knelt down in front of me. Xiao Rui, tell me, how did you know about Zhang Ming? I looked into his eyes and spoke with total seriousness. Brother-in-law, I had a dream. A very, very long dream. In that dream, I saw everything that was going to happen. I saw the killer take lives, and I saw Zhang Ming ordering him to silence the witnesses. I saw Sis die while trying to protect me. I saw you spending 10 years hunting them down for revenge. And in the end, I saw you die too. My brother-in-law froze in shock. Xiao Rui, you. I kept going. Brother-in-law, I know it sounds impossible to believe. But it's the truth. I've lived through this many times before. Every single time, I tried to save my sister, but every single time, I failed. It wasn't until this time that I realized I couldn't just wait for them to come for us. I had to strike first. I had to catch Zhang Ming before he could make his move. My brother-in-law looked deep into my eyes. He saw a weariness and a weight there that no child should ever have. He was silent for a long time before he finally spoke. Xiao Rui, it doesn't matter how you knew. You saved our entire family. Thank you. I shook my head. No, brother-in-law. You're the one who saved us. If you hadn't trusted me, if you hadn't brought your team to catch Zhang Ming, sis and I would still be dead. My brother-in-law pulled me into a tight hug. Xiao Rui, that's never going to happen again. I'm going to protect both of you. My sister knelt down and joined the hug. We're a family. We'll stay together forever. As I leaned into them, the tears finally started to flow. This time, they weren't tears of absolute despair. They were tears of relief for having survived. Over the next few days, the City Police Bureau launched a massive investigation into Zhang Ming. They uncovered a huge amount of unexplained funds hidden in his bank accounts. His phone records proved he had been in constant contact with the murderer. On his computer, they found evidence linking him to a smuggling ring. Zhang Ming was officially charged. He was finally going to face the full weight of the law. Even the killer eventually confessed. He admitted Zhang Ming had paid him to kill everyone and wipe out the evidence. The mole, Officer Liu Wei, was also arrested. He had been Zhang Ming's inside man at the dispatch center, specifically tasked with delaying response times. He was meant to give the killer a window to escape. The case was finally closed. Our family was safe at last. But deep down, I knew. This was only the beginning. Zhang Ming had told me that there were people above him. That smuggling ring wasn't just going to walk away. Sure enough, 1 month later, my brother-in-law received an anonymous phone call. The voice on the other end was low and gravelly. Li Jiangguo, you were quite clever to catch Zhang Ming. But did you really think it would end there? My brother-in-law asked coldly, who is this? The person on the line just laughed. It doesn't matter who I am. What's important is that your family is still alive. If you want them to stay that way, stop investigating now, my brother-in-law said angrily. Are you threatening me? The person on the other end said, this isn't a threat, it's a warning. Zhang Ming is just a pawn. By moving against him, you've moved the entire chessboard. If you know what's good for you, stop right here, otherwise, you'll regret it. The call ended. My brother-in-law's face was grim. He looked at my sister and me, and made a decision. That night, my brother-in-law gathered us together and said, Yu, Xiao Rui, I've made up my mind. We're moving. We're leaving this city. My sister was stunned. Why? My brother-in-law said, this case is too big. I'm afraid of dragging you into this. We'll go somewhere else and start over. I shook my head. Brother-in-law, running away isn't the answer. They'll find us. My brother-in-law looked at me. Then what do you suggest we do? I said, brother-in-law, you keep investigating. Uncover the entire smuggling ring. I believe in you. I know you can do it. My brother-in-law hesitated. But your safety. I said, brother-in-law, we can stay in a police safe house for a while. Once the case is solved, we can come back. My brother-in-law thought for a moment. He finally nodded. All right, let's do that. For the next few months, my brother-in-law and the task force worked day and night. Following Zhang Ming's leads, they uncovered the entire smuggling ring bit by bit. It was a vast criminal network involving customs, the police, and even government officials. My brother-in-law was under enormous pressure, but he arrested them one by one. In the end, the entire organization was uprooted. Dozens of criminals were brought to justice, and my brother-in-law was highly decorated for his service. He was promoted to deputy chief, and our family could finally live in peace.